Some of these bolts on the intake manifold are going to be pretty easy to get to. Others look like they're going to be a bear. Some of them are right there. Okay, this is a bracket that the power brake vacuum came off of. This is the check valve. Here's a tap into the intake manifold. And a bracket that looks like maybe it could have been used as an engine hoist. And on the other side here, try not using the power first to break it loose. There's one thing you have to be careful about when you're using power. You don't want to strip the heads. I should say round off the heads. So it's best to break them first and then fire them out for time. I noticed I skipped the middle. That's because it doesn't look like a straight shot in there. So I'm probably going to have to break them with a wrench, and I may even have to take off the valve covers first, because it's can't get on there good. Using a power tool, probably just going to strip it, and that's the last thing we want to do, whether we're reusing it or not. I don't want to strip it. There's some stuff under there keeping the wrench from going on all the way even. Yeah. I'll take these off. These wing nuts for the valve covers are nice, but I don't know whether these are just a bad fit. The wing nuts tend to fall off. That's not a good thing. There's a bunch of washers in here. Well, I can't even get this wrench on him. Maybe I need a different wrench. I got that one on. So that's going to be a slow process because there's not much swing, and so maybe I didn't bring my ratcheting wrenches on down, even though they may not be able to fit on here because of the tight clearance. But I'm going to turn the camera off for now and work on those. And I'll be back when I'm ready to pull the intake manifold, and I'll let you know how I got to them. So the heat riser for the choke, at least I think that's what it's called, that's what it used to be called on the old time cars. At least that's the function it performs. It may not be the part. On engines that are into the 70s. That's held on with two 3/8 inch bolts. The first one came off easy. Well, that one's going to take a little bit of a effort, and then the EGR valve. Had to think about what that was for a minute. EGR valve is also 3/8, but can't get a socket in there even with a 1/4 inch drive, so wrench. I'll get these out of my way so that I can hopefully have a better shot at getting into that bolt on the stud, and I'll be able to get a better picture of it. So I will. I'm going to shut the video off for a second because I have to disconnect this hose and then get this out of the way. Have this hose off, it should come off easy. Let's see if I can't get that bolt there loose. And then I'll take that off. So if you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know one of my favorite techniques is to use a long socket or a long extension on the socket so that I can get my wrench out to where I can actually get a good swing at it. So the long socket, 3/8, or long extension, 3/8 inch socket on there, that gave me the leverage I needed to get it off. So when I took the EGR valve off, I noticed that it is kind of carboned up. Hope that's in the frame. So I don't know how well that was working, but the engine was running good. So I guess it is what it is. I could have used the power wrench on that now to speed it up. So there's what that is. It's nothing more than a tube that goes down there to get the heat from deeper in the engine to control the choke. fair amount of carbon on that too. So now, theoretically, I can at least get my wrench in to this nut, bolt. Get this out of the way so that I don't hurt myself on it. I don't like getting hurt. And then I can pound on the end of the wrench. You see that? It looks like it's on, but I'm going to take off that valve cover. There's no sense in me fighting it and stripping it, and then that'll make it harder in the long run. It's a shame they didn't come up with a better way of engineering that so that you could put that on without doing gymnastics with it. But it is what it is. I'll be back once I've got the valve cover off. So what I did on the stud, and actually I did it on both of them, is I took a pick and I cleaned out all the way around the bolt in this case and the nut in that case. And I was able to get the 9/16 inch wrench on it, and with a little tap it came loose. But it is literally one of these notches on a 12-point socket is all that you can turn it at one time. So hopefully this will soon get loose enough to turn by hand. I don't even know if I can get my fingers in there. But the stud is loose. Now to get the bolt loose. Again, get it on there as good as I can. And that little tap did it. So this one will come out a little easier, but it's going to take me a while to work on that stud. So I'm not going to put you through the pain of that. I'll shut off the camera and be back when I've got it up. Here's a fun tidbit. I've got it pretty loose, and I thought I'd try unscrewing it by hand. The gap to get the wrench in is so small, I can't get the wrench off. So now I got to tighten it back down till I can get the wrench off so that I can try to unscrew it by hand. And the other thing is, you can't get a deep well socket in there because of the way the angle of that mounting place for the carburetor is. And you can't get a short socket in with an extension because it won't engage the nut. So I got to see if I can turn this out by hand or come up with something new. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off some of this stuff so it's not dangling as I try to remove that intake manifold. But I can't get that thing to turn by hand, and I can't get the wrench in there and then have any hope of getting it off again. So I've come up with a plan. Okay. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to break that manifold loose and put something under it to shim it up so I can get the wrench in there. Okay, I should focus on what I'm doing, shouldn't I? So I'm going to try to break the manifold loose right now. It's loose up there. It's loose down here. Should be loose on this side. If not, it should be easy to get loose. There it is. It is loose. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick this screwdriver under here. That will give me more clearance to get the wrench in there. Get it on the nut, because this thing is unscrewing from the block. It's not, the nut isn't coming off of the stud. So see, I can get that in there now. If it gets loose and I need to, I can put something thicker under there to prop it up. Or just pry up on the screwdriver. I don't know how long that stud is, but it's possible that it's going to be too long to get out with that nut on it, and the nut is kind of rest welded to the stud. So they could have done a better job. I was watching a video though on YouTube from My Vintage Iron, who does engine rebuilding, but he has a machine shop. He's obviously a professional. And some manifolds don't even have these two bolts, but he was like, I think I want those things bolted down to reduce the possibility of a vacuum leak. So what he did, there, we're out. What he did is he drilled them new holes in there, but he made them more vertical so that you could actually get a wrench on them. Pretty clever way of approaching the problem. Well, the stud came out. But you pretty much have to have a machine shop to do it, because you don't want to be drilling in there just at random and hoping you don't drill something out, make a hole in your head that can't be there. So this guy should be all that's attaching it now. It should lift right off. There you have it. You're looking at the push rods and the lifters. Heads go down to there. The next thing I am going to take off is the rocker arms, which will allow me to take out the push rods. So if I recall, those are 5/8 nuts there, yep, to hold the rocker arms on. And I am going to do these with some power tools. To make it go quicker. My new Milwaukee 3/8 inch impact wrench. So if you were doing this and intending to reuse these parts, say you wanted to replace a head gasket, nothing was wrong with your valve train or anything, you would want to keep these in order so that you put them back in the same place they came out of. Just got this, so I am not sure what I'm doing here. There's 3 speeds on it. I had it on the lowest. That'll speed things up. So this is cylinder number 1. Just quickly, and again, if I was planning on putting this back together, I would lay these out, preferably somehow that I could have them permanently in there, you know, like drill holes in a block of wood and insert them. Somehow, you know, put them in a bag, label them, you know, 1 through whatever. Just to make sure that you got them back in the right place. But in my case, I am not reusing them, so I'm just going to zip them all off and take off all the rocker arms. Take out all the push rods and I guess put them in the scrap pile. On some of these rocker arms, I didn't get the nut all the way off. Matter of fact, that one I didn't even get loose enough to show you the trick I was going to show you. Yeah, there it is. You can turn that sideways, and then this actually isn't tight, loose enough for me to get it off with my fingers, but you can turn it sideways if it's loose enough to get it off with your fingers, and that gives you room to reach it with your fingers. If you don't do that, you're never going to get your fingers down in there to do it. Okay, that's all the rocker arms and push rods out of that side. Now I can unbolt the head. Before I do that, though, there's a temperature sensor on the side here, and while I have it very sturdy in the stand, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. Don't know if I'm going to reuse it, but at least I'll get it off. So it's a 15/16 socket. You can just see the end of it. And there's what it looks like when it comes out. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to reuse that or not. So now all that's left is the head bolts. And I believe they're the same size as the make sure I'm doing this with the right size socket, because the last thing I want to do is round off those bolts, because I'll never get them out. Okay, that's good. We'll see how this little 3/8" Milwaukee impact wrench does on the head bolts. Got to make sure I'm running it the correct direction, because I have a Craftsman little nut driver impact thing, and that thing is opposite of this. It goes in a different direction to loosen. So this is the 12 Milwaukee, I guess they call it stubby impact wrench, 3/8. Well, did a pretty good job on that. Remains to be seen how long those batteries will last, but I'll take these head bolts out. Okay, there, notice different length head bolts. It's because some of these sit down in the valleys here. Those are the short ones. The ones that sit between the, right close to the studs in the head, those are the long ones. You're not supposed to reuse head bolts, because the torquing puts a stress on them, and once you torque them on, that's it. So I'm not bothering to put these away in any particular order either, because again, I'll get a new set of head bolts. But I will save these for just random projects around the house that you need a big bolt, strong bolt for. These will fit the bill. Now I do have to, that's not all of them. There's a bunch over on the side here. So got to take those off. These are shorter yet, because they only go through the edge of the head. And that should be it. shut the camera off for a second while I stow these bolts away, and then I'll be back to take the head off. So I've taken all the bolts out. And I just pull the dipstick out with the spout that it goes into. And hopefully I can lift this thing, because make sure I got all the bolts out. I don't see any more. I need to pry it off. Oh, there it comes. Just a little bit stuck. There's probably a pin on there to align it on this other side. Yep. So. Still strong enough to lift the head. Glad of that. That'd be embarrassing if I couldn't get this apart. So this is the head gasket. Obviously not going to be reused, but so now that I can see inside the cylinders, and you can't. One of them is full of oil and or water. There's a ridge, and it might be mostly carbon. There's a ridge on the cylinder walls at the top, which is not uncommon. I mean, the rings wear and the cylinder walls wear, and that leaves you with a ridge. So there's a lot of oil and or water in the one cylinder, probably from me turning it over upside down and that. So I don't know what kind of pistons or any of the internals of this engine are. But I can tell you that these, whoa, the head is supposed to be a stock head according to the casting number. I don't know if these have been machined. Those look like awfully big intake valves. Awfully big. See if I can get a rough dimension on them. They may have been machined, and they look to be almost 2 inches, but I mean that's not an accurate measurement because of being just a tape measure. But the new ones I'm getting are over 2 inches, so these are a little bit under 2 inches, even if they've been machined. So it will be somewhat of an improvement. That's the problem with buying a used car that's that old. You never know what's in it, what somebody else has done. I don't know what the lift is on this cam. I'm going to find out, but see if I can grab one of these lifters out of here. So lifters ought to be pretty easy to take out because they are designed to move freely. So what I got is a little pick, and you can just catch the inside of the ring where there's a snap ring in there that holds them together, the hydraulic part of it. I don't know if you can see the snap ring here, but it's right there. So I will just go through, pull all of these out, and then I'll flip the engine and go to the other side. While I'm at it, see what these tappets look like. I forgot to turn the camera on. I took off the oil sending unit, which is over here, right above the oil filter. And I just used a big crescent wrench on it. So what I'm going to do now is I'll leave it tilted this way, and I'm just going to take off all these rocker arms, push rods, pull the lifters out, and then I'll tilt it up with all that extra weight off of it to where I could move it easier. And I will take off the head, and I think that's going to be it for today. I'll have to come back tomorrow and take the crankshaft and pistons out. Let's see how spinning this goes with less weight. That was easier, obviously, because I could get it done. So I'll just take these spark plugs out, take all the head bolts out like I did on the other side, and it'll be off. So there she is, the engine block with all the top end removed except for the camshaft. I guess I consider that the top end. I come back probably tomorrow because it's still supposed to be nice weather. I'll turn it over and work on getting the pistons and the camshaft out and the crankshaft, and then it'll be ready to ship off to a shop to prep it for me.